Did you know that fermented foods like sauerkraut, kefir, and kombucha can help restore a healthy body and mind? Cataline Brown, a certified GAPS practitioner, shows you how to make your own fermented foods and why they are so important for good health. Welcome to Richters Seminars. This video presentation is from a series of free educational seminars on herb and garden topics offered each year at Richters.
Thank you so much for coming and showing the interest in lacto-fermentation, the secret to healing. I come from a Hungarian background, and so lacto-fermentation is very familiar to me from a child. We prepared in the fall time for the long winter to get us through. We had to put away our foods, and mainly they were fermented. We did our own jams that were cooking outside in these big kilns until they thickened so we could put them away. But really the secret to refrigeration is the fermentation, because back then we didn't have refrigeration. And many cultures around the world still today do not have refrigeration, but they still have the science and the art of fermentation, which is absolutely amazing. This wonderful lacto-fermented foods that we prepare feed the ecology in our gut. And today we have the absolute sickest people on earth we've ever had in all of our time of history of living. We're getting so knowledgeable in everything out there, yet our health is going right down to the toilet, virtually down the toilet. And so today, I hope by the end of this lecture, you will definitely know how to do it, because we're going to have like a little hands-on demonstration, and we're going to package it up. You'll be able to take it home with you. The jars that are done in the front, I'm going to break down into smaller jars that have already been washed, so you'll be able to take a little sample home. And these little jars in the front here, I came to Richters and got herbs, so these actually taste as the herbs that are in them. So the cool thing about fermentation is that you can have it taste any flavor you want, and it just richens the flavor of the ferment you've got going in there. So and in the practice of pediatric dentistry, I'll tell you what I see. Every third child that comes through our door is a GAPS child, is a gut and psychology child, a gut and physiology child. So that acronym stands for both gut and psychology, gut and physiology, because our gut is tied here. And when there are mental issues, we know that this is where it's coming from. It's coming from the gut. And so we try to, steer these families, these parents, in the right direction of feeding the children, but it's a whole program, it's a protocol. And then as a GAPS practitioner, I do then see clients in their homes to look at their environment, see where they're living, how they're cooking, how they're preparing foods, and I go through the whole protocol of the GAPS diet, which is available online. Dr. Natasha Kelman-McBride is a GAPS practitioner. She's a neurosurgeon and neurologist who had a child, and the child was diagnosed with severe autism at the age of 3. And her being a neurosurgeon did not have any idea about nutrition. It was not her angle, and she knew that her job could not definitely help her child in any way. So she acquired the diet that was the specific carbohydrate diet, which is still here today, written by Elaine Gottschall and pre-written by Dr. Valentine Haas in New York City, who was 92 and still practicing when Elaine Gottschall got the title of the book that she wrote, Breaking the Vicious Cycle, which is totally an amazing book. It would be one that would heal you from gut dysbiosis, all the gut issues that you might be having. So I'm just going to get on with this presentation because I want to get to the fermentation as well. So I'm just going to get my notes. Actually, you know what? The control is back here. The control, is this the only control I have, my own? Okay, all right. Okay, so what is lacto-fermentation? It's a transformation of microorganisms that under certain conditions transfer into something else. So imagine, these are these little critters in here. They're now exposed to the air, and all those microbes are actually floating around in there with the salt, and now going to be bottled underwater, under the cabbage leaf, away from air, will now make a transformation into something very magical. And the very magical thing is all these wonderful microbes that will actually be feeding your gut. So 1 teaspoon of sauerkraut made like that, whether it's made by you or made by me, are not just millions of probiotics in your gut, but trillions per tablespoon. Trillions per teaspoon. Donna Gates, who wrote the gut ecology book, when in her area in California, when new babies are born, they give a baby 1 teaspoon of this probiotic to set their gut up the right way so that they're not going to be developing colic and other issues. So they're already presetting that gut. All right, so these organisms are prehistoric. They predate history. One story is that the Chinese discovered it while building the Great Wall of China, and that is, of course, about 200 BC. They came to work, and they didn't have any bowls, so they pitched their food all into a big barrel. And as the weeks were going by, they noticed that the food was taking on a different consistency and a different texture and different taste, and they fell in love with it. So they went ahead and did this fermentation. So how does fermentation help us? It helps us digest our food. It controls overgrowth of yeast. It balances our gut flora, nutrient absorption, breaks down proteins, synthesizes vitamins. I'm going to go through all this. It alkalizes your gut, your body, boosts the immune system, and rebuilds tissues. So it helps us digest our food because as we eat this cabbage, it is already pre-digested in that jar. But what it does is, because the microbes that then go into our gut, it's able to break down our proteins and break down our foods that we're actually eating. So it's really, really easy on the digestive system. If you're a diabetic, you have to then take, say, live foods, like raw foods, and break them down with your own efforts of your body, which is sometimes very, very hard for a diabetic to do. So they lack a lot of nutrients in their diets. With cabbage, it pre-digests it for them, so it's not hard on the pancreas. I just want to go back to the story of the lacto-fermentation. As I had already said, that I had done this in my childhood, standing in the barrels, stomping on the cabbage, and when it came to the wines, I used to step on the grapes too. It's part of that whole fermentation process as well when we do wines. But in our ecology of our gut, 90% of our immune system is in our gut, so it's very, very important that we nourish that immune system. When we have autoimmune diseases, it's really not so much that it's an autoimmune, it's actually a gut flora imbalance. If we balance that gut flora, we would notice that we would be a lot healthier, a lot quicker. Just going into dentistry just for 1 second, Dr. McCullough was speaking on a YouTube, and he had said that he had always had problems with calculus on their teeth. And of course, we all visit the dentist. We all know our hygienists, what they have to say. Floss some more, make sure you floss every day, brush 3 times a day. You know what, realistically, you can brush all you want. You can floss 3 times a day. You only have to floss once. The microbes will still be there because there is this imbalance in the ecology of the gut. When you start your fermented foods, you will see that you could virtually you could brush your teeth at night. Wake up in the morning, old times, you'd have plaque on your teeth. Why? The microbes are producing all those microbes in your mouth. Lacto-fermentation, all those microbes stop. The fermentation is taking place and eating up all these bacteria. They don't allow them to proliferate. They actually get them down, they move them down into the toilets, through the bowels. Fermentation is an evolution of the bacteria. And as it starts to, like the first bacteria that start the process, so when you do your jars, you'll see that there's going to be little fizzing, little bubbling going on. Those are certain bacteria that are actually activating the source. Very, very end ones that then finish off that ferment that causes you then to have all those wonderful effects in your gut. It alkalizes your body. It goes in acidic. It goes in acidic to your body, but it alkalizes your body by its effects. It synthesizes all our vitamins. So this bacteria, when it gets into the gut, creates this wonderful gut flora. And it's the gut flora that gives us our B vitamins. So if we do not have a good gut flora in our lower intestines, We cannot assimilate our B vitamins. So this is where all the mental problems happen, because our B vitamins are our happy vitamins. They keep us going. They keep us happy in times. Hippocrates, 130 years BC. He had many sayings, but two of my favorite are, let food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food. And the other one was, all disease begin in the gut. And don't we know it today? All those thousands of years ago, he knew it. He knew this. And yet, today we've lost this magic. Where have we lost? What have we lost? What have we gained in all these years? With our knowledge of modern technology, where have we gone wrong? Back with the Wright brothers doing these wonderful airplanes, these wooden contraptions, barely got off the ground. And today they're flying 3 times the speed of sound. The creaking telegraph was just creaking sounds. And now we have fiber optics lighting up the entire Earth, having communication from one end of the Earth to the other. And we know that because we communicate with our friends all over the world. Once the unexplored world was untouched and only touched by explorers, and very little was known about them. Today we can visit the very depths of even the soils of these different countries around the world from our very own living room or our computers. Yet we're so unbalanced in what we have in our health. The health system today is a band-aid because they're treating the symptoms but not the cause. And the cause, as Hippocrates said 130 years ago, is in your gut. To just look there. Where have we gotten so out of balance? The evolution of the modern diet. So the modern diet is when you go into the grocery store and you go down those middle aisles. You see all those packaged foods, all those cereals, all those fake, nuked, refined, denatured, the foods of commerce, the white sugar, the white flour. Back in the 30s, Dr. Weston A. Price went around the world. Actually, he was a dentist in Ohio. And all the people coming into his office, he noticed that the children were getting worse and worse with cavities. So he thought, are there any cultures anywhere in the world that do not have cavities? So he set sail. And the very first areas he came to in the Luchenthal Valley, these were coastal people, and they ate raw fish. Their temperatures were very cold. They could only grow certain amounts of vegetables at only certain amounts of the year. But it took 10 people before he found one cavity. One thing he found was all the people looked similar. They all had round faces, meaning health. They all had a certain stature. They were well grounded. They were not large people. They were not thin people. They were well structured people. And he noticed that when he went out of the village, the first generation of people would have cavities. The second generation of those very same family had elongated faces, meaning that they were on the verge of malnutrition. So what we know from development is this. When we are well nourished, in our heads, we have something called the sphenoid bone. If you were to take the head right here, you would see that there's a big bone that looks like this, like the bat's wing. When we're malnourished, these bones become very soft, and they're not strong enough to hold our faces broad. So we get this long narrowing of the faces. And we see, I would have to say, 90%, even 97% of the children today all need braces. Why? Because these children are well fed but malnourished. And that's got to do with their packaged boxes. Their parents are very busy people. I mean, we're all busy. The foods come from the freezer. They come from processed foods that have no nutrition whatsoever. We've taken ourselves from the stove and given our lives to the grocery stores in the middle aisles. The GMO foods that are now coming in, the steroids, the antibiotics, the hormones, these are all effects on the gut flora. They all affect our health. Farming methods have changed in the past 100 years. They're not putting in the nutrition that they should be into the soils. We are actually calcium rich and magnesium deficient. And we know that because the children, I just observed the children that come into the office. They have restless leg syndrome. They have cramps in the legs. And these are questions that I ask them. And we know that these are magnesium deficiencies because when we have a lot of carbohydrates, what happens is for every molecule of carbohydrate, so that's a bread cereal, a rice cereal, mainly cereals that, these are children that have a lot of consumption of cereals and breads, is that for every molecule of sugar that is converted in that cereal, it takes 53 molecules of magnesium to convert that into a usable sugar, which means these kids are using up their magnesium at unbelievable rates, leaving them deficient. So what do they have? Sleepless nights, they have anxiety, they have restless leg, they have shin splints, they have all kinds of issues, concentrating in school, ADD, ADHD, autism. That's a story all on their own, actually. Okay, the FDA. Division of Nutrition. It is wholly unscientific to state that a well-fed body is more able to resist disease than a less well-fed body. My overall opinion is that there hasn't been enough experimentation to prove dietary deficiencies make one more susceptible to disease. Are we kidding ourselves? This statement is so untrue. If we take children today, as I was saying, that are well-fed but malnourished, we see the degeneration in their bodies. We see them in their thinness. We see them in their crooked teeth. We see them in their ADD, ADHD issues. Two scientists stepping back years. Louis Pasteur, who mainstream medicine has followed. The allopathic medicine has gone this way. And Anton Béchamp. So Louis Pasteur's idea was that a bacteria comes into the body, as allopathic doctors think it today. So you get a virus, that H1N1's flying around there, it's going to land inside, it's going to make you sick. Anton Béchamp's theory was that the terrain gets sick, and then the terrain is what makes you ill. When you can recover that terrain, as in the gut flora, you can recover this issue. And these two fought between themselves because they were contemporaries together. And actually, the story is that Louis Pasteur, on his dying bed, said to Antoine that, yes, you're right, it always has been the terrain that has been ill. The immune system. There are 5 to 7 pounds of bacteria in our gut. 90% of our immune is our gut. This terrain is the responsibility of our health. This is our soil. This is what feeds us. This is what feeds the life of the bacteria. So if we have the right terrain, the bacteria that we put in there will survive and replenish and give us health. And as I had said before, it is responsible for all of our B vitamins. As a matter of fact, our bodies are so innately clever and smart that when we have the right flora, the body's able to call on the B vitamins and deliver them as needed. I need this much B3, I need this much B6 right now, I need this much B12, and that amount is delivered. So we have to really, truly take into consideration how wonderful this gut is and how we have to nurture it, because it's our mother. It takes care of us, but you definitely have to take care of it. Optimum bacteria has to be present in the gut. And eating fermented foods replenishes that every single day. Because we use up our nutrients, we use up our bacteria for fighting different diseases. You can't just expect to have it, say, once or twice, and then, oh, I'm fine, like a probiotic. Oh, it's fine. I take it a couple of times a week. Oh, I take my yogurt. And just go into yogurt for 1 minute. The commercial yogurts that we have in the stores have maybe 2 bacteria, because the commercial world cannot afford to stand there over that yogurt and make sure that all those microbes don't get out of control or get too sour, because they only let them sour up to a certain amount. Whereas when you have them at home, you can let them sour for 3 or 4 days, get a really tangy flavor. That way all those microbes are alive. But in the stores, we only get 1 or 2 bacteria. So unless you have other fermented foods, it's always good to have a variety. So kombucha and kefir. The kombucha we have in bottles today to try out. The kefir, which I have also in jars for us to try out today. Then the fruit drinks that you can make at home yourself to, again, feed the microbes in your gut. The kimchi, which is under the cover there, it's a little shy, are all different foods that have different organisms that we need to feed the gut with. And we can't short ourselves of that. Otherwise, you know what, we are going to suffer. When we have an illness, it's not really the illness, again, going back to Béchamp. It's the terrain. You've got to improve that terrain. You've got to feed that terrain. You've got to feed that gut. Going north. So we're going north from our large intestine, our bowels, into our small intestine. The small intestine has microvilli, whichever way you want to pronounce it. And they're little finger-like projections. And all those little finger-like projections are enzymes. And these enzymes are responsible for getting that food and breaking it down and then pulling it into themselves to then pull it into the body. When our gut does not have enough bacteria sending up from the south to the north, these microvilli, they fall off. Maldigestion starts. So all this burping and this belching and, oh, I've got this tummy ache after this, are not being able to be broken down. But that even takes further north than that in the stomach. So when we have injured microvilli through pathogens moving north, because what happens is they open up. So naturally our food should be starting from our mouth and ending up in the toilet. Instead, though, what happens in injuries is these valves that are supposed to be only going south, they open up to the north and they breach the different areas of health. So those little traps open up, the bacteria come up, and they do damage where they are. Even further north in the stomach. So when we eat our food, eating that we do, that bolus, that ball of that what we swallow, is called a bolus. And it gets into the stomach. That stomach acid should be so acidic that it should churn that food into virtually something that you put through a blender. It'll be mush. It's called chyme, or chyme, however you want to pronounce it. That chyme, that chyme in the stomach, can only go down to the next part, which is the small intestine, once the body has acidified that enough. It cannot go past there until it's acidic enough. But what happens is, with all the drugs given today for acid reflux, it diminishes, it pushes down the amount of hydrochloric acid you're producing naturally from your stomach. So imagine this. Our bodies know how to acidify the stomach, and it cannot go anywhere until it's acidified. But because it's not fully functioning, what happens is it gets so much of a gas buildup because digestion actually starts to begin here. It builds up all this gas. Then you have this great big burp or belch, and all of a sudden this stuff is coming up into your throat, burning your throat. It's not because you have too much stomach acid. Really, you don't have enough. This stuff, whether you brew it yourself or buy it from anywhere, is going to help you in producing your own stomach acid, getting your body functioning properly. So what happens in the dysfunction where Helicobacter bacteria comes up in your stomach? What it does is, we all have Helicobacter bacteria, we all have H. pylori, but our diet keeps it under control. But when life goes wrong and there's an overgrowth of yeast, the H. pylori actually paralyzes the sphincter that keeps them shut down there. It paralyzes the sphincter so that it's always open. So when you burp, up comes this hydrochloric acid into your throat, causing this burning. And I told you my story already. I'm Hungarian born. As a little girl, I stomped this cabbage because we had to put away for the entire winter. And you know what? With fermentation, as a community, we did this together. So we would go to different houses. So people would come to our house. We'd do the fermentation together in batches. That's the time of the year that we would slaughter the cattle, slaughter the pigs, make the sausages. Again, they were fermented. Make the kolbas. In English, it's called kielbasa. Make all these wonderful ferments that were then done before the winter came. And then they were put into the root cellar. Or they were then brought into the root cellar, and from there, this big barrel, you could just scoop from it all winter long and have it. And you know what? You'd finish up pretty well by the summer when the next harvest was coming in, or getting ready to go down, as we say. We call it. So it was a community effort. As I said, we all got together. We went from place to place doing all this work because it was a tremendous amount of work for just one family. And doing this amount of cabbage, I usually do about 12 cabbages or 24 cabbages at a time. And it's a job and a half, that's for sure. But if you can get together with your community, do it with a friend, that's a great way to get through the process. Okay, so again, we're Lacto-fermentation, the secret to healing, produces harmony in the stomach, strengthens the acidity of the hydrochloric acid, and lags the hydrochloric acid if it's too high. So imagine, if it's too high, this will get you under control because the bacteria know what to do. So when you're producing too much hydrochloric acid, it naturally just will decrease it. It says, oh, I don't need to come out because we're acidic enough. Fermentation stimulates peristalsis. So when your food is supposed to be moving through your bowels, moving through your intestines, in through your bowels, out into the toilet, fermentation helps this situation. Oh, let me tell you a funny story. Can I tell you a funny story? My boss from downtown, wife always had issues. I said, here's a jar for Alison. I'm going to give you this jar to take home. Oh yeah, she's always had issues with constipation. And you know what, honest, in my line of business, we're always talking about constipation. What did your poo look like? Did you look at your poo? I mean, you know, it's just what we do. We all should look at it because that tells us a big story. We should really be looking at it. Anyway, so he takes the jar home and I go to work on Tuesday. I said, oh, how did Alison like the sauerkraut? He said she didn't get off the toilet all weekend long. Because what it does, it's such a live food that little will go a long way. But she liked the taste of it so much that she just couldn't resist eating half the jar. That'll keep you in the toilet for sure. Fermentation stimulates the peristalsis, that we just say, moving through the intestines. It assists in blood circulation because it cleans. It detoxifies the body. So as it detoxifies the body, we get better circulation because the blood system is not clogged down with all these parasites and worms and yeasts and the things that combat our bowels in a diseased situation. Lactic acid locks and unlocks the secretion of glands and organs. And as I had said before, diabetes, the demand on the pancreas is lessened with fermented foods. You know what, and as I had said before, like our body is so innately intelligent, we have to ask ourselves, like, where did we go so wrong? What have we lost? We have lost that wonderful sense of what really is good for us, and we've got to get that back. And I think with all the illnesses of today, this type of work really is making its way back. Like, there's a lot of fermentation going on. There's a lot of communities. I belong to the Weston A. Price Foundation in the States, which is now worldwide. It started in the basement of a Baptist church with like 13 women 12 years ago. It has now grown worldwide. There are worldwide chapters everywhere to lead you into better eating. And I have given you brochures on the Weston A. Price Foundation. They are a non-profit. Oh my gosh, they are the ones that are trying to, well, we're trying to get raw milk to come into Canada, where, you know, we're able to buy it anywhere we want to, usually from the local farmers. But these people have taken courses on having these farms and these barns that are immaculate. You could eat off their floors. Pasteurized milk has caused us a lot of problems. The reason, like, almost every day, a patient will say, oh, my daughter is lactose intolerant. They're really not lactose intolerant. They're pasteurization intolerant, because the milk in its whole form is actually three-dimensional. And as it gets pasteurized, it gets flattened out. And when it goes into the body says, what is this? You are foreign to me. And it comes and launches an attack, sending out those signals of allergies, of intolerance. So now this child can't receive all those wonderful things that they could, aiding in their growth and development, because now they're allergic to milk or sensitive to milk, because it's been denatured. And the cows that are truly giving us the real milk are the brown cows, those Guernseys and Hershey's. They're not these Frankenstein cows that are black and white, that have udders that are this big, that are milking 3 and 4 times a day. That's just not normal. That's just not natural. As I had said before, it's a detoxifier, so it's able to pull out toxins from our bodies. It will actually latch on our innate abilities when our bodies are fed with these wonderful nutritious foods, is it can actually grab a hold on to, your bacteria in your gut can actually hold on to a microbe and send it on through. Not even let go of that microbe. It will just pull it right on through until it hits the outer limits. We use lacto-fermented, well, we all know about probiotics, right? Those are in capsules. And again, you have to have a lot of probiotics at one time to really make it worthwhile. I mean, they're great products. Don't get me wrong. I don't even want to say anything against probiotics at all, because I use them myself and I recommend them to our clients and our patients in the office when we see these children that are just so desperate for some help. Along with those, because they have bacteria that we cannot culture or that do not live through the culture, but there is your major probiotic right there. And that's like thousands of dollars worth of probiotics right in the jars. So just do them at home yourselves. And as I had said before, there it says right here, 3 to 4 tablespoons daily is sufficient to ward off any intestinal problems and constipation, which haunts a lot of people these days. A lot of people. So the transformation of bacteria, it's a catabolic exchange. So the bacteria break down the sugars in these cabbages or whatever you're fermenting, any of the vegetables or fruits. When you ferment food, it breaks it down so you can actually digest properly. Then there's this explosion of this carbon dioxide that happens in there, and you would know because when you touch those jars, they're very hard. All that carbon in there's like almost an explosive side, and when you take it off so nice, there's a very big shh, or it bubbles over the sides. Again, it just renders the digestible abilities into the stomach. It's a great natural preservative. So we have lacto-fermentation for milk and for plants. When we ferment milk, we use a culture. So that's a culture that is an actual, like an inoculation that you'd put into your milk, as we know that, or a little kefir like we have up in the front there that would make kefir yogurt or milk or cheese. But the lacto-fermentation that's done with vegetables is just the actual, the vegetables with the salt, with its own bacteria. But in the fruit ones, we actually inoculate a little bit of whey. So we take the drippings from the cheese, from the kefir in this case, and I've inoculated this jar of fruit with the whey. So it's a clear substance that actually runs off, and I'll demonstrate that today. It's sort of neat, you know. It's sort of exciting. It is exciting. It is exciting. So there's that cow eating that grass, grazing off the natural elements as to what he's used to. And these microbes that are on that soil go through the milk, through the udders, and it comes out in this wonderful form of this pre-digested milk that you can then have because the enzymes that are in that milk, so it has its own enzymes. So when you take that milk in, you're not going to have a reaction because it's got its own enzymes to break it down. It's not going to cause you any issues. Our guts need bacteria, there's no doubt. Feed your gut. And because, like I said to you, it is your mother. You've got to feed that gut properly. You've got to have the microbes going down there. And you know, you just have to ask yourself, like, how am I feeling? Don't let someone else tell you, well, you know, this is what you should be having because this is what's going on. You have to ask yourself, what are you feeling? What are you feeling? Are you feeling tired? Are you feeling sluggish? When was the last time you went to the bathroom? Like, that's got a lot to do with it. Are you going too often? Then what happens is this huge transit time through your bowels, and your body's not picking up enough nutrients because it's just going on through. And that happens for two reasons. Backup happens because your body is so dry of massive overgrowth of pathogens that it's trying to pull everything it possibly can to preserve itself. And what happens instead is you get constipated. Then the runoff, the diarrhea happens because there's so many pathogens, it's a type of poison, it just wants to get out of your body. Your body goes, you get out of here right now, just pushes that through. There's a combination of two. There's a combination of constipation and severe diarrhea with the same person. And that, again, comes because there's just a great big blockage, it's just the bowels are just stuck together with all the pathogens. But then that liquid just needs to get on through. It's going to shove its way through no matter how it goes and gets on through. And that should be making you feel better, but many times it just doesn't. I wish you all great health in the knowledge of this lacto-fermentation. We're going to start this class now and show you how to go through this fermentation process, so you'll be successful at home doing it. Cabbage could be in medical science what bread is to nutrition. Cabbage is the physician of the poor man. And I want to thank you. We get from cabbage to this. So we're going to go ahead and start. So in the beginning, I had put the cabbage into the container and I just salted it. So I'm just going to wash my hands. And okay, so I put it through the food processor, and I put it through the blade. Okay, so I use this cutting blade, the wide one, all right? So I just put my cabbages in there. I put my other vegetables into another container. So in this cabbage right here, I put 2 tablespoons, so that was 2 cabbages, and I put 2 tablespoons of salt. And remember how big this load was? It was really, really tall, right? So what happens then is the cabbage starts to release its juices. So you bruise the cabbage up, and as you're squeezing it, the juices will start to come out. Salt, and I used the Celtic salt, and you know what, I'm sorry, I showed some of this stuff before everybody got here, but I just want to tell you that when you are using your salts, please use a really good quality, and I'm not like selling Eden Celtic salt, but it is one of the highest salts in minerals. So we want to add all the minerals we can because we are so mineral deficient today from our diets. As I said, the soils are not plentiful in minerals. So I use this is salt I use, the French Celtic salt. So I put on, as I had said, I put 2 tablespoons of salt onto the cabbage. And so it's been here for probably about, I don't know, 45 minutes, I would say. And it's just starting to release its juices. So I'm just going to give it a taste and see if it's salty enough. And you know what? Go by your taste. Like you just can't think, oh, Cadeline used 2 tablespoons of salt and, that's what she had said. You have to go by your taste. Everything's with your, your taste. What tastes good to you? You should have salty enough because that's how the, it's good and salty. So we're going to have someone take off their shoes now, wash their feet, and dance on this. Who's going to volunteer? Okay, so I'm just going to give this guy a little massage, and then I'm going to go to the front table, and we're going to eat because I'm going to come back to massaging it a little bit later. And so you just squeeze, almost like you're doing laundry on a washboard. Who knows how to do laundry on a washboard? So as you squeeze it, so the salt is now getting into more deeper layers of the cabbage. And I had said, sorry, I'm going to repeat myself now. We shred our cabbage to give it the maximum area of coverage. So when it's small, when we look at just, one little strand of cabbage, the salt will then go all the way through that little cabbage and create this beginnings of the fermentation where the salt goes in and pulls the fluids out. So the bacteria is going to be sitting on top, on the outside of the cabbage. Okay, you can stay here, my little friend, while we open up those bottles and get some food going. So, all right. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this cheese out. So this is cheese from kefir. So kefir is a little culture, as I was saying. I'm going to show you this little culture. And I brought one for everybody. And I don't know if there's enough for everybody, so here's what I want to say. If you come with a friend, let your friend take one because they grow unbelievably rapidly. So these little guys, that's part of the bacteria. So these little guys, they look like a little mushroom, okay? And this little culture is about 30 different yeast and bacteria. This is what your gut will grow wonderful, wonderful microbes down there and feed your body. So that little guy there will probably do that much milk in 24 hours. So it will sour that much milk, okay? It's just slimy, but you get used to it. You just get used to it. So as I said, I will have one for everybody. I fed it this morning, so it's full. It's nice and full. Its belly's nice and full. And we're going to get the cheese and get some bread out and just go to town. Just going to wash this kefir off.
When you say you fed it this morning, what do you mean by that?
I'm going to show you. So feeding your kefir baby, or kefir, however you want to pronounce it, is done by putting your little baby into a fresh dose of milk. So we put the little kefir in here. And when you put the kefir in there, you're going to put milk onto that, okay? You're going to swiggle it around because the majority of the bacteria and yeast that it holds is on its body. We want to swiggle it around, so we're washing the body of the little kefir. And so if you walk by it a couple of times a day, give it a good swirl, give it a good swiggle, and you're going to ferment it under a paper because it's a breathing organism and we don't want it to drown, right, in its own little milk supply. So you put an elastic band around that because the fruit flies will love it. And we want to keep those little critters out of there because we just don't want any more protein than we already have, you know, coming from the kefir. No, you know what? I want you to buy it because I don't know who in here can get raw milk and who can't, but I'm just going to say one thing. Use the best quality milk you can, but not homogenized, okay? Because when they homogenize milk, so use the best butter fat, 3 point whatever is out there, 3 point, I think 3 point, what is it? What's the, 3, okay. Use the best quality. I'm going to tell you why. Every single one of our body cells are made from a saturated fat. We need the fats in our body. Our cells are made of that. 50% of our cell is a saturated fat. You cannot be on a low-fat, no-fat diet because you're looking for a heart attack. Our heart muscle, every single cell in that heart muscle is half saturated fat, or half polysaturated, but no unsaturated. There's no such thing in the human body as an unsaturated fat. So we need to look after ourselves. And I gave you the pamphlets on cholesterol and fat. I want you to look at that, and I want you to Google and get the information yourself if you don't believe me. But we're on a tremendous amount of statin drugs. And statin drugs, in the long run, is going to cause you to have Alzheimer's. There's so many people that are getting demented because their drugs are causing, because it's reducing the fat. It's reducing the fat in our brain. Our brain is 2% of our body weight, but it's 20% of our body cholesterol. It's up here. So when you take those statin drugs that thin out your fat, you're thinning out the fat up here. That's driving the brain. That's driving the food. We can't do that. We just can't do that. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so yeah, you can use goat milk. Another thing I want to say is, if you like coconut milk, what you can do is this kefir will do 2 rounds of coconut milk. Then you've got to feed it again with milk, okay? So what you'll do is you put your kefir baby in there, put some nice coconut milk in there, do the same thing, squiggle it around, and that milk will sour. But because it needs milk sugar to feed the organism, you then have to feed that guy with milk 2 days from now if you're going to use 2 doses of the coconut milk. Okay, like a lot of people like coconut milk. Coconut milk is good. Yes. You know what? It will do that much, but if you want to leave it for 2 days, like that baby will grow twice its size probably in about 2 weeks. Well, there you go. Oh, no, you know what? Absolutely great, yeah. Like when I do mine, I just put all my babies together, you know, and to make this cheese, I did this yesterday. To make that amount of cheese, those little guys made that. So this bacteria made this cheese. It's tangy, it's really good, it's full of wonderful microbes, yeast and bacteria. So as I said, I got bread here. You guys are going to put some on your bread. You can put honey on it if you like. I'm just going to open up some of these things and get going on it. All right? Do you have any questions? Yes? Pardon? I didn't add milk to it, no, because I fed it this morning. I want to give these guys away to you guys. Yeah, that's why I didn't.
But you would normally put it back in the jar without washing the jar.
No, you don't wash the jar. No, thank you so much for that. No, absolutely. We do not wash the jar because we don't want to get rid of all that wonderful microbes in there. And you'll see them; they're all stuck there. That's just wonderful. Look at them; they're all over my hands. They're all like, that's just yay. That's just good. And now this is the kefir milk that I had done a couple of days ago. You'll have a chance to taste it. And again, it's very tangy. So what you can do with this is you can add a little bit of honey, you can add a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg. It makes a wonderful drink. You could use it as a smoothie for your base. Put your bananas in there, put whatever you want in there. But remember, you're feeding your body a probiotic every time you have a kefir drink or a fermented drink of any sort or food of any sort. You're always doing your body good. That's one thing that you have to know.
Eat from the top one you feed and the baby's down, right? You always put it down.
Yeah, you know what you want? Like what you'll do is you'll put all your babies into a bowl, all right? And then you'll take back what you want. You may want to give some away. You may just want it for yourself. You know, some people are selfish. We like that. It's good. It's good to be selfish. Then just top it up with milk. And as I said, give it a little swiggle. Wash the body. Or what you can do sometimes, too, if you really want to really give it a really, really good bath, is put your babies in there, put the lid on, and give it a good shake, and then pour that milk off, and then drink it. I mean, if you guys, you know, it's already tainted a little bit with the bacteria. It's great. It's really good. So, again... You know what? No, you know what? It's the kefir babies are always a gift. Someone always has to gift you with one. You can buy them, I believe, in packages dry. Like, you know, there'll be cultures that you can buy off culture sites. And they sell all kinds of kefirs, water kefirs, the milk kefirs, starters. They'll have sauerkraut starters, they'll have juice starters, they'll have all kinds of stuff, all kinds of starters. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to open this bread up. And we're just going to start. And I'm Brooker's Farms, who donated the sausages. And I don't know what religion you are or anything like that. And doesn't matter to me. Whoever doesn't eat pork doesn't have to. You can have the butter here for your bread. But they donated the sausages that are all organic. So they have all free-range animals that they take very good care of. And then they become our food, which that's what we need. We need to have animals that are well taken care of, no antibiotics. And then they make sausages. So their place, when you go in there, has these wonderful freezers full of all these great organic meats that are already done. Like the sausages are done. You can buy chicken carcasses. So in the GAPS protocol, our very first healing food are broths. So the chicken carcasses are there, the knuckle bones are there, the oxtails are there to make and cook these wonderful broths that heal and seal the intestinal lining, which is the very first foods for children that are sick. For anybody that's sick, anybody that's really, really ill, they have a lot of GERD, they have a lot of reflux problems. We always heal and seal that intestinal lining first because it's full of holes. It's leaking really bad. And you've all heard of leaky gut, right? Who hasn't heard of leaky gut? Everyone's heard of it. Like it's what causes your allergies. All right, let's open up this. Ooh, did you hear that? Oh, and it's fizzing. Look at it. Look at it bubbling. Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. Oh, it's singing. Look at it. Oh my gosh. You see it bubbling? Look at that. Oh my goodness. See how live it is? All right. So these are over 6 weeks old now. So, oh, and the other thing is, you know what? These will keep for a century. They will keep for a century, open or closed. Doesn't matter. As long as you keep them underwater. So what you do then is when you have finished, like, okay, so that was the little cover I took off, the little blanket. It's called that little blanket. This blanket is totally edible. It's just the top leaf of the cabbage. So that's what we submerged it under. Oh, it is still bubbling. Oh my goodness, look at you. You're so alive. Okay, you know what? I'm going to get my little wooden tongs out. Here they are. And again, when you're working with stuff, please do not use metal because these are very highly acidic. We don't want the acidity to wash in whatever might be in like stainless steel. So always either use your hands or use wooden tongs or the silicone pincers, those things. All right. So let's just get all these things out.
So even when you're doing your cabbage up, you shouldn't use stainless steel?
No, no, no. You know what? Use plastic. Use a plastic bowl or get one of these Rubbermaid jobbies. I have several different heights depending on what I want to do at the time. So use a plastic container. It's a good quality one, because you're going to be taking it from here and transferring it into here. So when you're fermenting, either use an open vessel, like this guy, or you use a closed method, which is, you know what, this is transportable, right? This is great. Our grandmothers had these wonderful things. This is just a weight. This is a weight that was holding the plate down, and you're going to smell this really fast. This kimchi. Now this kimchi is Korean. It's extremely hot, so if you're into, and there's a plate down here to have kept it submerged. So when I did all the vegetables, I submerged all the vegetables under the plate, and then I put a plastic wrap on it to keep the air away from it. Then I put this water-filled jar for weight to keep the plate down, to make sure that the liquid came above the plate. All right? So this is called an open vessel method. And you can do any method you want. And as I said, the nice thing is that this is portable. You can take it to your Aunt Sally and say, I have a gift for you. And you know the nice thing is too around Christmas time what you can do? Is you can do red cabbage and green cabbage, and you put the red cabbage in the bottom, and you put a little tiny leaf on top so they don't run together. You put your next color, separate it away, or you can do just kale. You can do like a strip of kale. You can be so creative. It's great. They're wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Christmas gifts. All right, so I'm going to put this out here.
So in here you have herbs of some kind, right?
Yes. So in here, in this particular jar, and what happens is these jars are absolutely beautifully colored in the beginning. Like they're just wonderful. You can put all kinds of colors in. But what happens in the fermentation is all that bacteria leaches the nutrition and colors out of, like there were red flowers in here. This is like a floral. And it's all gone. I'm so disappointed. So this was an edible arrangement that I had gotten, which were flowers and sprouts and kale and cabbage and celery and onions. So in putting onions into a ferment, we're giving ourselves a lot of the sulfur-based foods. Sulfur is a very good detoxifier. Oh, is that a yellow flower? I'm so excited. Oh, look at its state. Oh, my goodness. Yes, that's all that's left of it. The sulfur-based foods, so the onions and garlic, are very, very good for detoxification. So I really urge you to put a lot of garlic, a lot of onions in bottles like this that you're fermenting, because it is absolutely very, very good for you. It's very healthy for you. All right. So let me just see what we can...
Does it have to be mason jars, or?
You know what? As long as you can seal it. They don't have to be mason jars. What are you thinking? See, there's a plastic lid one. Yes, absolutely. You know what? The only thing is, though, when you were doing this, you have to be able to get your fist down into the jar. So I actually promote you to get these ones. You can use a little tool. Like, see, I use this when I'm pounding my cabbage into my jars. I'm using this to keep it down so the brine comes above it. So you pack it really nice and tight. So you have to have it, if this fits into your smaller mouth jar, or get your husband to whittle one for you, or sometimes what they do is they take at the end of a bat, right, and just sand that off and use that, and then use it only for your fermenting. Like, just, you know, think of anything you have. See, what's this? This is an old rolling pin. You know, the ends came off. Yeah. But I mean, there's some beautiful, sophisticated, ancient ones out there with handles. They're just so beautiful. So yeah, that's all you need. So okay. This is fruit fermented, so this is actually apples. So this is apples and cinnamon and cloves, and you can see them still bubbling. So in here, the way that I took off the cheese has gone in here, and that inoculated it. So in here, there's a tablespoon of whey and your apple, and you can have these fruits to taste. So let me just get these guys out. No, there's a little bit of salt in there, just a sprinkle of salt. There's a little bumblebee. See, he's after the ferments. There's just a sprinkle of salt. So when you get your apples into a bowl and you're sprinkling your nutmeg and your cinnamon on there, just sprinkle some salt on there too. Okay? So you'll be able to taste that. It's a little bit. The liquid is just a brine. It's just water. It's just water and salt. Yeah. Okay. The kefir milk? No, the kefir, you know what? The kefir will ferment. It's meant just to have like this non-fizzy, because it's like a yogurt, right? Yeah, you know, as I said to you, remember I was saying to you, when they're commercially done, there's maybe 2 microbes in there. You've got like 30 in that little body. There's no, you know what, if you make your own from this, there's no comparison. Like, forget that stuff. You're way better off with this, and you're going to find like definite differences. One thing is called die-off. I'm just going to tell you this right now. Remember I was telling you the story about Allison? That's called die-off. What happens is these wonderful microbes move into your bowels, and they kill off those other ones. They actually push out. But in their push out, what they do is they actually kill these microbes. But those guys that die let off hundreds of toxins. So sometimes you will get sick. You will get a headache. So expect those kind of things. That's just a huge inoculation of wonderful microbes. Yes?
With the cabbage, what the Poles do is they put caraway seeds and also a little bit of carrots in this.
Yes. So, yeah, like if you're going to put spices in there, put your spices on the bottom of the jar. So that they don't float to the top. So put them on, and they will just flavor everything right on through.
How do you seal them so that they're, like, you put them in sort of half boiling water, and then
Oh, no, 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 no. No. You know what? That's Louis Pasteur. We don't want to know anything about pasteurization. No, no. These seal themselves. I will show you here, once this cabbage is done, it'll be done in just a little while. I'm going to pack the jars for you and show you how to seal them. You seal them with a cabbage leaf. So here's my cabbage top that I seal it with. Okay, so it's just very important. I'm going to show you how to tuck them in. They've got to be tucked in really, really well, like a bed sheet under a mattress. They've got to be tucked in underneath the brine. Then when you put the lid on, there's an air space left, and when they use up all their oxygen, the carbon dioxide just pushes everything to the top, and you have a sealed jar. And you know, because they're hard, like they're really hard. There's a lot of oxygen in there, or carbon in there.
The other question, I have a Ukrainian friend, and she says that they make like a little barrel and everything, but then they put it into bags and they freeze it. So that can make
You know what? So the question about freezing it once you've done your fermentation is to put into bags and freeze it. You know, I don't know the effects of the microbes, but I would have to say if these guys are coming from the earth, they must be able to survive that, but I really truly don't know that. And I am going to find out, because someone else has asked me that as well, is whether the microbes, you know, survive after the freezing. But the thing is, you don't need to freeze it, because it's here. You know, you use it up. And when you open it, you can leave it on your counter. It'll ferment longer under the warm temperatures. Or you can refrigerate it and stop the fermentation. This will keep on fermenting. Okay. All right, so you know what? I'm going to get you guys to start. And I'm going to have to use a spoon for the butter. I'm so sorry. I think I forgot the knives to... Okay, so the cheese is done through dripping. So what you do is you take the... I'm just going to get my little cheesecloth here. So what I do is when I pour my kefir into a bowl, okay, and I pull out my babies and I put them all back into their little fermenting jar, I have the kefir liquid left, okay? So what I do with that is this. I get this bag and I pour it into this bag. And then I take this and I put an elastic band around it. Then I hang it from my cupboard handle. See all the whey coming out? That's all the whey. And it will actually clear up. So whatever little kefir you've got, you can actually drink. Like that. The babies, no. This is the kefir that I took off this morning, so I just wanted to show you how to do the cheese. So how I did this. So you'll hang this, you'll put a really good tight elastic around this. You can do it two different ways. You can put it over another bowl or a tall glass container with elastic band, and then put a wooden spoon through the elastic so it supports on a big jar, and it'll just drip. Whatever drips from there from now till tomorrow is your cheese. So this is what that is. But if you drink it with the liquid, it's just your kefir milk. So enjoy it.
So your whey, when you're doing the...
Yes.
What that is.
Yeah, so then I refrigerate that whey. I've got like a bottle, 2 or 3 bottles at home of whey that you can just drink like that, because again, it's a good inoculant for your gut. You're feeding that ecology. Remember, every time you fermented foods, you're feeding that ecology. You're feeding that mother. Okay, you're feeding that mother. You can put it away and do your fruit ferments, or use it. Just use it up or drink it as is.
And so how long would that be good to use? Let's say you put it in the fridge, it will be fine. You can use it to make your
Oh yeah.
For a while.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Smell it. If it smells a little bit off, taste it. Don't be afraid to taste it. If it tastes tart, it's going. Pitch it. Make some new, drip some new whey. Or if you just want to drink it as is, just drink it as is. Yeah. So these bags are available at the hardware store. I just got this from Home Hardware. I think they sell 3 in a package. They're really, really good because the strains are very, very small. Again, you never want to use anything metal because you don't want the metal to leach from this acid. This is very acidic, right? So we don't want it to leach from the metals. Let me just put this little guy back in here. So let's just go over this one more time. Once your kefir in here has gone 24 hours, minimum 24 hours, let it go, as long as you want, but minimum 24 hours. And you taste that and you think, yeah, it's tangy enough, I like to drink it now. You're going to pour that kefir into a bowl, and you're going to not wash your jars. You're going to take that little kefir baby back and you're going to put it into the jar. You're going to pour some fresh milk in there. So you're going to pour some fresh milk in there, as high as you want. Remember, this is fresh milk. That kefir is fully loaded. Its body is fully loaded with bacteria. Give it a little swirl. So you're just giving that kefir a little bath. You're giving it a little tiny shower. You're washing off all those microbes and spreading it around in the milk. And every time you walk by, just give it a little swirl. But you're going to be covering it now with a coffee filter and elastic band so we can keep out those little uninvited critters. All right? Okay, please don't be shy. Come up, get a piece of bread. He's going to cut the sausages up. And, no problem. Again, you know what? When you're stuffing them in there, what will happen is when you get to the top of the bottle, remember, like now they've been fermented, right? So they're a little bit limp. But when they're fresh, they're really hard. So just stick a couple down and push that fruit down. Just get a couple of fresh apple pieces and cut them wide enough you're going to be able to like anchor them down. Yeah. And then put in there whatever you like the nutmeg, the cinnamon, the little cloves, whatever you like do anything you want. This method is so giving to anything you want to do. Like, say this is not your favorite fruit. Like, I don't like that fruit. Don't worry about it. Put something else in there. But watch heavy things like pineapples because they're very, very sweet, and you might get a little explosion in your house. So if you see that it's flowing over, just release the little, let it shh, and then put it back. So as I said, 5 to 7 days this is done. And if you don't want to ferment anymore, just put it in your fridge, and you can eat the fruit out of it, use the liquid all up, by all means. Absolutely.
Do you have a book that you would recommend or a website or anything?
You know what? Shandor Katz, K-A-T-Z, has a wonderful book called Wild Fermentation. He is actually the Weston A. Price guru. Actually, go to Weston A. Price and Google, so you'll type in Weston A. Price and you'll put Weston, so it's W-E-S-T-O-N. Yeah, it's on the front of all your flyers. Yeah, so you'll go Weston A. Price, and then you'll put in there lacto-fermentation or sauerkraut or kefir or kvass. So we actually call this fruit kvass only because you use the whey, and the whey is actually considered to be a starter. So in here, because there's a whey, we call this a kvass. In Hungarian, we say kvass. Kvass. Yeah.
Can you use powdered whey?
Please, no powders, no powder of any sort, no milk powders, no, use fresh. Use fresh. You got the kefir baby, right? You got your kefir baby. Remember when you strain it off, remember? Where'd you go? Here it is. That already is whey. Look at, there's the whey right in there. That's all whey. So when you put your kefir, you've taken all your babies out, you want some whey. Today, I think I need some whey for the kitchen. You're going to hang this guy up any way you want. So as I said, what I do is I put 2 elastics here joined together, and I hang it on the cupboard handle, and I put a bowl either elevated with, like a bowl upside down, another bowl on top of it to keep it close so it's not splattering everywhere. And you'll get a very clear liquid. This is murky because it's been sitting with the kefir in there. But the very clear liquid. And it's really handy to keep around as starters. So you start your fruit kvass with that. You start your apple things with that, with the liquid whey. But remember, you always have to have a little bit of salt in it to make it just a little tiny. So what I do is when I cut my apples out, when I cut them up, I sprinkle them with salt. Then I just get them with the cinnamon and the nutmeg and the sticks and just whip them around. And then stuff them in the bottle. Pour the juice on top, like your brine. Seal it, and you leave it on the counter and you watch it, and you'll see it fizzing and doing all these little things.
After 24 hours, it's ready to eat, right?
No. This is 5 to 7 days. So this is 7 days old.
And your whey should not be refrigerated at any time?
No, the whey you can absolutely refrigerate. And as I said to you, just taste it. Pour some out into a little shot glass. Taste it, And too, if you want to just do yourself some good, get a little shot glass. Pour a little bit of whey in there, drink it. It's good for, remember, you're always feeding the microbes. You're always feeding that intestine. How to make yogurt? Yogurt is, again, a culture, okay? So as we said that, kefir is a culture. Yogurt comes from an inoculated brand. So if you're going to get, the way you can do it, 2 ways you can do it. One is you get a really good quality yogurt. Good quality yogurt is like this. You read the side of the thing and it says bacteria and milk. There shouldn't be any starch, and all these 50,000 other names that come down that jar should not be listed. Only milk and bacterial culture. You take that culture, so you can bring that yogurt home with you from the store. You're going to get, and the thing is, you need a good quality milk again. You bring that up to 114 on your stove. You have to keep a thermometer in there, okay? You have to bring your milk up to 114. Okay? And then you take that off, you let that cool down to about 90, and you put your culture of your yogurt in there. Now what I do is I start mine, and I put a little bit in there only, get that, like there's the new yogurt in there, and I'm going to put my milk in there. So you got a little bit of fresh milk in there, stir it so all that bacteria is evenly distributed, and then you put the rest of your milk in there, you put a cap on it. What I do then is when I have all my yogurt ready, depends on how thick you want it too. If you want it really, really thick, what you need to do is you need to put the sealed jar like this into your oven. Put into your oven, you turn your oven light on, just your light. You put a wooden stick like this into your stove door, and you close it with this thing hanging out. So it always stays at the same temperature from that light bulb. In 24 hours, the lid will seal down. You'll see it. It'll be actually down. That yogurt is ready in 24 hours, okay? The other method you can use is I get my cooler like this. If you get a full, one of those large, I think they're 500s, use half of that for, like, it depends on how much you want to do. Like, how crazy are you about yogurt? Are you really crazy? Yeah. Then it'll do like two 2-liter jars. That culture. Yes. Yeah. Now, the other method is this. You get a probiotic, a really good quality probiotic. And what I do is I put a little bit of milk into a shot glass. So I put the milk in there first. I open up that capsule, I put in there, and I get my little stick, my little wooden stick. Remember, we don't touch anything with metal. Get my little wooden stick. I stir that probiotic. And then I cover that little guy up overnight. In the morning, that thing, you could go like this. It'll stand up. Then I take that culture. Then I put it into milk. That is the best one because it is fully loaded with all the bacteria that's actually in that probiotic. So when you've read that label, all those lactobacillus are the ones that will be coming back to you in multiform. And you can just, and as soon as you get, and so with that, I only would make one jar like that, okay? Then you can take that as your starter and make 3 more jars because it is so potent. That's the way I do. But you just use the same method where you heat your milk up, you pour your inoculant in there, which is your culture, and you put it into your stove with your light on over 24 hours. Or as I said, what I do is I actually line the bottom of it with a towel, with just a tea towel. I then get a boiling hot water into a jar like this, sealed in the center. And I put my 4 jars around it, get another blanket, put it on top, and I put the lid on and I close it. That jar will keep hot and heat those guys through until they're actually fermented. Yeah. You can, you know, if you want it stronger, then just put another dose of hot water in the next day. All right, let me just show you now this stuffing of this jar. So I'm going to bring it up front. So this is where I was saying that it's very important that you seal your jar away from oxygen. Keep all those little pieces underneath. Did everybody get a jar of sauerkraut to take home? Why didn't you? Get up here. Hey, take one of these. So this one is very special, just because you're left out. So this one is from Richters, all these little herbs, and you'll see the flavor will transfer right into them. Let me just give you one of those other ones too. So, you didn't get a baby? Did you come with a friend? Did you come with a friend? Oh my gosh. You know what? You know what? Come back and I will leave babies. Do you live around here or not? Well, then come to my house and get one. Oh, what am I doing? Hello. Got kefir on the brain. So this is the one with the flowers, the pansies and stuff in it. So you can have this with your bacon and eggs in the morning. Hint, hint, bacon and eggs. Remember, it's good for the heart. This low-fat, no-fat diet by Ansel Keys was a very, very bad idea. Since they took fat out of the diet, there are more heart attacks and strokes than there ever have been before they took butter and eggs out of the diet. So have your bacon and eggs in the morning and get your sauerkraut out and have it with your sauerkraut. Or have it with your, have your bacon and eggs with your sauerkraut. There's lots of nice juice in there too. You're welcome. Okay, so let's move this baby up front here, and I will show you how this guy has really, really gotten now soaked from the salt. Yeah. Where should we get the raw milk? You know what? Go online and you know what? It's really obviously because I'm, being recorded. I will go there afterwards. You know what? You can ask me after the session, all right? You know what? The Weston A. Price Foundation is working very, very hard at supporting Michael through his hard work at trying to bring raw milk into our province. And we should really be trying to get to all these functions that are promoting raw milk. Because it's our right to be able to drink and eat what we want. And somehow the government is trying to tell us what we can and can't eat. And that's just totally wrong. And I think, in a subtle way, they put all these frankenfoods out there to purposely keep you in that grind of, I think probably Health Canada and the food companies are working together because they give you all this food to eat, then you get sick, then you're bound to go to the doctor to get medicine. So I don't know about this whole thing. Okay, so see? Remember, this is not water. This is all the release from the cabbage. But see what 2 heads of cabbage have done? They've gone to like hardly anything. All right. So I've salted these guys too. So remember what we put in there in this one. There is kale, there's radishes, onions, broccoli, and there's that white radish as well. So we're going to mix this all in. And if you want to put garlic in there, whatever you want to put in there, just put it in there. And if you want to bring a flavor through, like say you want to bring an herb through, then just use the cabbage with really benign sort of flavors. So you're going to put in there celery and broccoli, but you're not going to put really strong things like onions and stuff like that because you're going to totally lose this flavor. All right, so what you do is you're mixing it through. So I salted the other vegetable as well. And the reason I didn't put the vegetables in here to begin with is because I really wanted that cabbage to release all its juices all by itself. It's sort of a selfish vegetable. Yeah, you know what? Get yourself a nice bin. You don't have to have it this big, but remember, I do like 12 cabbages at a time, so I need a really deep bin like this one. But get yourself a shallower one and put it on your chair because it's a lot more comfortable on your chair than to be reaching up on a table. Unless it's shorter. Like, see, I have a shorter gray one back there that I also work with.
You do the cabbage first, and then you add your other items.
Yeah. So what you do is you sweat out your cabbage first. So you're going to do your cabbage and do the salt, remember? And remember what we're doing. Remember we're going by taste. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a little bucket of water here. I want you guys to actually taste this. Let me just taste it first. First taster. Yeah. Okay. So just wave your hand in here, and I want you to come and give this a taste. I want you to know how salty it has to be, because it has to be salty. So come on up. Just wave your hand in there and take out a little bit of cabbage, and I want you to taste what it tastes like. And even raw like this, it is so sensational. See how salty it is? Because the salt will now draw into the cabbage. And yeah, come on up and taste it. I want you guys to all know, so when you're doing your own, you think, oh, jeepers, I wish I had gone up and tasted that cabbage. And it's good just like this, but we know what we're going to bottle this. And the cool thing is that if there are any microbes in there, the fermentation will actually kill everything. If there's E. coli in there, you know, there's more danger eating raw vegetables. How many calls, how many callbacks, how many deaths, how many illnesses have we had with raw vegetables? A ton. There's never been one incident ever with fermented foods. As a matter of fact, if you put E. coli in here now, by the time it came through this process, gone, wiped out by the friendly bacteria.
There's no onions, right?
There's onions in there. Yeah, well, only in this one. Like, you know, you can put in there whatever you want. Okay, so I'm going to stuff the jar. So here's what I do. I put my jars always in the center of my bin, because that way you're not putting it here and then transferring it and then you've got it all over your countertop. So this is just stuff that I've, you know, developed because, you know, you get to correct your mistakes. So as you start to pound, can you see through the plastic okay? So as you start to pound down the cabbage, and you're going to be using bigger jars hopefully than these little ones, because it's just too much work for these little jars. I just want to show you today what this is like. So what you do is you pound down your cabbage, you really squish them down there. See how the brine is lifting up? See, look at this brine. See, you put in there, I put in there like that, and that's all that brine that came up. So you squish these guys down, add a little tiny bit more. You always have to leave some air space at the top. So I would say, if you're going to do a little jar like this, don't go past, say, a half an inch past the neck here, because you still have got that much space, like 3/4 of an inch. So like, that's about an inch in total, all right? Then what you do is you get your leaf from the outside. So in the beginning, when the cabbages were being stripped, remember we saved these leaves with all this wonderful, wonderful yeast. I'll see that white stuff? You want that. That's wonderful yeast. Oh, yes. So you get these little guys here. You can take off that vein, but just keep everything because you might need it at the end. So then what you do is you put the center of the leaf down the center of your jar. Then you start to tuck in like you're tucking it to bed. So you tuck, tuck, tuck all the way around so that all the brine is coming above your finger, but the sides of the leaf is going down the side of the jar. So now, if I turn this upside down, the brine will come out, but the leaves will be stuck underneath there. So you see, now it's all tucked down. It's nice and tight.
And do you leave the brine in?
You leave the brine in because it has to be, so the whole cabbage has to be underwater. Okay, it has to be under its wonderful brine. And that's not even enough brine, so I will actually add to it. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so just tuck it, yeah. So if that one leaf is not enough, don't hesitate to put another. The other one I had like 3 leaves in it. So just put one across and just tuck that guy in. And remember, start off so that everything is totally submersed under the liquid, so that now there's nothing sticking up. There's a few little hitchhikers there, just pick them off. You're not welcome. Just take them off, okay? And then you're going to put your lid on here. Clean the sides of the jar off. Then have a towel. What I do is I line my towels up, like fold them into thirds like this, and put them on the counter, and I line all the jars up because they're going to burp and stuff like that. You want them burping on the towels. It'll soak it in. So then what you do is you don't over tighten that jar, okay? Just until it's tight. It's tight. So you will leave that jar on your counter for 3 days. And what you'll notice is the liquid is there. But in 3 days' time, what will happen is the fermentation process has already begun, and the carbon dioxide that's in there is going to push all of these guys to the surface. See how they're all floating at the top? And see what a wonderful color that is? That's just beautiful. Isn't it beautiful, the red? You know what's going to happen? It's going to... I'm so sorry, but that is just not attractive. But this is beautiful. So you know what? When you make up a bunch of jars, take a picture of them just for yourself. Do like a little before and after, because it's so much fun. Yeah, so as I said, get those, you see, because it's a lot of work, get those bigger jars. Don't get these little tiny jars. So this is just so I can send home this little ferments with you guys. So yeah, you know, like, and then you're going to ferment these at home for like minimum, I don't know, a week, give it a taste, open the jar, put it back, it's not sour. I would just suggest that you leave it 3 weeks solid without disturbing it. And that way, you know what, you get a really nice ferment. And you'll taste the difference of the flavor from what you had today and that what's in that little jar as to what these guys will taste like. You know what? You don't have to, but yeah, you can. Absolutely. You can do that. You can refrigerate it and keep it nice and cold, and it'll stop the fermentation virtually completely. And so again, the brine is well above the leaf that I've tucked down. So I've tucked all those little cabbages, those little pieces, underneath the brine, so it can ferment nicely. Yep. Yep. It'll start to ferment again. And because now you've opened it to oxygen, like to the microbes, it will start to get a little bit soft. So if you like that nice crunchiness, keep it in the fridge. Yeah, keep it in the fridge. Because it just, I like that crunchiness. Maybe you like it soft, I don't know. But yeah, it just is a lot nicer. 3 weeks, minimum 3 weeks. Really, realistically, I think the best flavor comes out when it's 6 weeks old. Like that stuff there, it's 6 weeks. And it's got a really nice tangy flavor. And they were beautiful at one time too. In this one, okay, so today in this one we have the cabbage, the star of the jar. And cabbage always has to be the star of the jar, okay? It has to be, because it's got the most bacteria, it's the best, it's got the most nutrients in it for your gut issues that there is of all the vegetables. And then, of course, all the vegetables are just, superstars too. So in here, there's cabbage. There's the white radish. Yes, thank you. The daikon radish. There's just half of it in here, but you can spice it as much as you want. So in here, there's celery, onions, the broccoli, the kale, and the red radish as well. Yep. Yep.
Did you wash the cabbage?
The outside leaves, yes. The inner ones, no. So the outside ones that are all loose. And then what I want you to do is, like, if you might even want to take off your leaves a little bit earlier so they're nice and soft and they sort of get limpy. Otherwise, they're really hard to push down into the jars. But if you let them sort of like, say, peel them first when you're starting when you're starting your salt batch, what happens nicely is that cabbage becomes nice to work with. Otherwise, it's so hard, it's going to crack, and it always, lets the liquids or the pieces come through. The little pieces of cabbage come through.
How often do you make it for yourself?
Well, you know what? No, because I do it, like I sell it. So I'm doing a batch probably every other week, 12 to 24 cabbages. Yeah. So, you know what? Once you get doing it, you're going to really start, if you don't like it already, you're going to really start liking it. If you like the taste of the cabbage, it's one thing that you will like to do. You'll like it because of the information I gave you today about the wonderful healing powers it has. It has the ability to fight cancer, because you're correcting the microbes in the body, right? If 90% of your immune system is in your gut, you've got to feed your gut. You've got to feed that gut. You've got to look after it. You can't just leave it ignored. And think that, well, this is going to do me, that's going to do me. And the one thing I want you to remember, too, in the foods that we eat, we have healing foods, okay, that are fasting foods. So healing foods, then we have feeding foods. Healing foods are vegetables, all right? So when we're very, very sick, I don't know if you guys does anybody know Max Gerson here? Max Gerson? Max Gerson is a doctor from Germany who was a very, very sick student in medical school. And he tried everything possible to, clean himself up. And through medical school, he did a lot of research with cancer. And so he developed this method of treating cancer with fasting on fruit juices, in vegetable and fruit juices, but freshly squeezed. So every single application that you have at his clinic, and he's long passed, but his daughter, Charlotte Gerson, runs a clinic in Mexico, because in the United States and Canada, we're only allowed to treat cancer 3 ways, right? Surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. We have no other methods of treating it. So when you go to Mexico to this clinic, they do this whole treatment through fasting on fruits, vegetables, juicing, and it's mainly juicing. And then, of course, there's all these live foods that you eat too. But the main thing is that they do 5 coffee enemas a day. So what coffee does as an enema is that it puts the liver into overdrive. So it cleans and cleans and cleans and cleans the blood. So through this method, so if you listen to Charlotte Gerson speak on YouTube, you will hear her say that the people that have been radiated, surgerized, and chemotherapy go there in wheelchairs, not even able to speak. And she only visits that clinic once every 2 weeks from California. And she says these people in 2 weeks' time are already walking and talking, and so they have unbelievable great therapies there at the Gerson Clinic, and it's world-renowned. Look it up, Max Gerson. And I know that in GAPS therapy, we also recommend enemas. Like sometimes what happens is these children that start off on the GAPS protocol become so toxic from detoxifying, so they get onto these foods and they all of a sudden become like virtually like gray in the face because they're so toxic. So we ask those parents to please give these children enemas, clean that bowel out so the bacteria is somewhere else new to land. And even like, I'll tell you right now, when I was a kid, my aunt was a doctor in our house. When you were sick, didn't matter what was ailing you, you could see her go look out the window and you see her come with that enema kit. It's like, oh my gosh. And I'll tell you right now, that's what her cure to everything was, cleaning the bowels. To clean that center core so the bacteria's got somewhere else to land. Doesn't it make sense? If it's clean, the bacteria's got to go there because it's now stuck in your body. So I was in Africa. I work in Africa. And a baby, so I work in a two-room hospital. So in the morning, we always used to ask the field doctor, his name was Matiso. I would always say, Matiso, what does the morning bring us? So he told me that a woman came in through the night that came in with a 3-day-old baby. That was probably not going to live because the baby was so toxic, it was convulsing, and it wasn't nursing, and he was just going to let the baby pass in the hospital. And I said, why didn't she deliver here at the hospital? He said because she had 2 other children. The baby came in the middle of the night, and she couldn't leave her 2 toddlers there. So I remembered my aunt's method. I ordered up some soap from the kitchen. I grated it on a grater, and I got some tepid water, and I got an angio cath, took the needle part off, and just did a little enema for this little tiny 3-day-old baby. Cleaned that center core out. That baby lived. Was nursing the next day. The fever came down. Convulsion stopped. Yeah, there's wonderful remedies to our forefathers and our foremothers. We have to just ask and listen. We have to listen to these wonderful people that have, ancient methods of showing us things, right? And sometimes we don't want to listen as youngsters, and then we think, oh my gosh, I wish I had asked my mother this, I wish I had asked my mother that, and she might be long gone. Thank God my mother's still here. She gives me all these, and I remember nutritional protocol for GAPS. We start off on the broth, and that's all we have. And these broths are done with these wonderful bones that we simmer for 36 hours, and it becomes so gelatinous that you could virtually, put the pot down and pull off the pot, and it's there in one gelatin piece. So in that broth are wonderful healing powers for these very sick children and anybody that's ailing, no matter what they have going on, because it gives the body a rest from digestion. And then we introduce the egg yolks for babies. We have wonderful success. It's successful. This diet is 100 years old. It's not new. It's not a new fad. Someone said, is this a new fad diet? No, it's not a new fad diet. This thing's over 100 years old. Dr. Valentine has developed this. And Elaine Gottschall, who went in there with her daughter at the age of 3 that was diagnosed with severe ulcerative colitis, hemorrhaging, and they worked with doctors until she was the age of 8 when they said, I'm sorry, we have to cut out her bowels. Like, what kind of information is that for a mother to have? But what happened was they had visited this Dr. Valentine Haas. A friend of a friend gave her Dr. Haas's name and number, and she went there. And this little girl, Judy, and you could see her YouTube. If you YouTube Elaine Gottschall, you'll see her YouTube talking about her daughter, how she was hemorrhaging from the bowels, and they had tried. By this time, in 5 years, they had gone through 5 pediatric gastroenterologists, but 15 doctors. So she went to 15 doctors looking for a remedy to help her daughter. But nobody could help her until this Valentine Haas came along, who had already written, like, in his time, he wrote over 677 papers on gut dysbiosis. So he developed this diet called the specific carbohydrate diet, which Elaine Gottschall, used for her to recover her daughter Judy. And I think she said in 24 hours, or 36 hours, she had stopped all those things that had been going on in her body. So every night she'd wake up with these nightmares that she was seeing these monsters because she was so dysbiosis and the gut was affecting her brain. Just like in gut and psychology, in GAPS, the gut does affect the brain does affect the gut. So she was, she was having these hallucinations of these monsters. After being on the diet, so you cut out, these are the 5 things you cut out. Liquid milk, not fermented, liquid milk. All sugars, all rice, all grains, and all potatoes. So those are five things that actually cause fermentation in your gut from sugars. You don't want them to ferment and feed pathogens. You want to cut out the foods and the pathogens. When you cut away those foods, that gut heals. But then you give it the healing foods of the broths, these wonderful broths. Sorry?
How long?
You know what? She apparently was on the diet for 2 years, but I'll tell you my own story with my husband. He had ulcerative colitis, exactly the same thing except for the hallucinations. And that guy, being on the diet 1 week, his symptoms left. He was still sick. His symptoms left, which was the chronically aching gut, the nausea, the gases, the pain, the chronic pain. And he had 3 gastroenterologists. And the best they could do for him was to say, oh, eat these white crackers and just have rice. Just those 2 foods. And I thought to myself, how is that supposed to feed your body? So going to work one Saturday morning to another pediatric dental office that I was working for in Scarborough, Elaine Gottschall was on the telephone talking about gut dysbiosis and all the symptoms. I thought, oh my gosh, my husband has these symptoms. He has all these aches and pains and his joints were all hurting. Sometimes he couldn't even walk. He had to crawl because it was an inflammatory response, right? Yes, go ahead. You're very welcome. So, okay, so listen, 3 weeks, just leave it on your counter, or after 3 days, put it into your basement on the cool floor. Okay, and leave it alone after that for 3 weeks. You know what, then put it into a dark spot where it's the coolest. Maybe in a cupboard. Yeah, come and get one. In a cupboard somewhere. Okay? Yeah. Don't put it upside down. It'll explode on you. Sorry, go ahead. So what you can do with that is drink it up. In there you're going to find a little SCOBY. All right? Nurture that SCOBY. Feed it. Feed that SCOBY sugar tea. So you make strong tea. So for that, you know what? For that little amount, you're not going to put in more than that. Okay. So when you have that little SCOBY, you're going to make tea. 1 tea bag will do, and about black tea. Yeah. If there's white tea, I'd rather you use that, but nothing bleached or anything like that, and no herbal teas, because it'll change the biotics of that little critter. Sorry? Yeah, Tetley black tea. Tetley's fine, and then you'll feed it in this glass. You'll probably feed it 3 tablespoons of sugar. So when that tea cools down, and only when that tea is cool, and it's in the jar, you're going to get that little SCOBY that's in there. So what I want you to do is I want you to go home and strain it through a plastic sieve, okay? There's miniature ones like this. So strain that little guy out. You'll see him. He's like a little jellyfish. Take that little guy out. He'll just peel off the bottom and put him into that little jar. And put on there only the coffee filter because it needs to breathe, okay?
Make how many
and, oh, sorry. Just, you know what, that's just your starter. So then what will happen is that little SCOBY will fill out this entire jar. It'll get as big as your jar. It always, because it seals itself off, it will grow to the size that you put it into. So you're going to put it into that jar. That little guy will go from this size to this size. There'll be like a little film over top of it in the first couple of days. Let it grow. 5 to 7, 10 days, 20 days. It depends on your temperatures. And you'll see it. Smell that tea. What I do is I get a straw and I move that little SCOBY aside. And I just put the straw in there, and lift the liquid up and put it in your mouth and see if it's sweet enough or tarty enough. It shouldn't be sweet because the sugar should be digested, but it should be a little bit sour. All right. So the SCOBY, the liquid, the kombucha. You can just move the SCOBY aside. You can handle that SCOBY. He's not sensitive. Don't eat him. No, if you eat him, no. You know what? If you eat him, that's not a no. Just don't eat him because you want to keep culturing your tea. You're welcome to eat him.
Put it in
Yeah, so once you culture your tea, again, you know what, if you go online, you can always Google Kombucha Mama, and she's got some great ideas there on how you can flavor up your teas and stuff. Yeah. Here you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so out of that right now, you could drink that and that.
You can, yeah, you drink that. That's wonderful stuff for your gut. That's wonderful stuff for your, your whole ecosystem down there. And yeah, I encourage that because you need, save your baby. That's right, save your baby. We're.
Did you make that one, Kathleen? Is that you that made these jars?
No.
Was that what you purchased at Whole Foods?
That's what I purchased. Well, I got mine at Nature's Emporium. Yeah, you can purchase them. Yeah, yeah. So and get the little bottles because you want to see what you like the best. Yeah, there's different flavors of kombucha. There's different flavors of kombucha. So here it is. See, here's this jar coming right from the apple. Without washing it, this thing will be totally fine. Isn't that just amazing? The bacteria. We just love bacteria. We just love bacteria. So this will be my last jar. So whoever, did you already claim it? Oh, good. Somebody claim, yeah, good. Okay, so remember, 3 days on your counter. You put into your basement. Let the 3 weeks go in the nice dark. Make sure it's nice and dark down there. Nobody disturbs it. Leave it alone because it's doing its thing. It's doing its ferment. All right. There you go. There's always juice left over. Now, if you've got a ton of juice left over, here's what I do. I strain that off with my strainer. So what I'll do is I will strain this off. Let's just pretend we're straining it off into a container, which we're going to do that. We strain that off like that. Keep all the little bits and pieces out. All right. Then we take this and we pour it into a jar. So we're just going to pretend that's our leftover cabbages with nothing in it. Because we don't want to waste that brine water, right? We don't want to waste that because everything is valuable. Then what I do is I get a leaf like this. That's pure. There's nothing in there. I get a leaf like this, and I stick it in there like that. Pour a little bit off. Let the gas, have enough room for gas. Put the lid on. And now I have some wonderful probiotic drink when that's ready in 3 weeks. Okay? And it's real. And you know what, too? You can make wonderful salad dressings with that. It's really sour, so put a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of your cheese, and have a nice cheesy salad dressing for your salads. Okay? There you are. Yes. Only once it's fermented, you can do with it anything you want. Like, so you want to have it as a drink? Absolutely. Ferment or put a little bit of honey in there, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg. Anything that you wanted, like whatever flavors you like, what you love, add that to it. But use it use it to your fullest advantage. Like, use it to promote healing of your gut, because you will feel different. You will feel different. You will be amazed. And the tooth thing is really cool. You could virtually go days without brushing because the bacteria don't come to your mouth. It's just an amazing thing. It's like, oh my gosh, where are you? It's not coming up because this is such an ecology down here. Remember, people in the past didn't brush their teeth because they had the ecology down here. When Weston A. Price toured around, he actually went all over the world. In 10 years, every summer he would go to different countries. And here's what he looked for. He looked for their sacred food. Their sacred food was special for the women, the young women, because they're preparing their bodies for birth. They wanted to have smart, strong babies. So they ate these fermented foods, fermented cod liver oil, fermented fish heads dug into the earth. So it's becoming like a putty. But that's what they ate, and they liked it. They acquired a taste for it. Just like, somebody tastes this stuff, says, oh my gosh, how can you eat that? But you acquire a taste for it. And when you know that that's your traditional food, it's easier to love it, because it's your culture, right? It's your culture. And he looked at teeth, of course, and then examined bones. The bones of these people were denser than anybody back in Ohio. And he went to colonies where people never even fought because they were full here. They were full of bacteria that then fed their brains. They fed those vitamin Bs that are down here, that are only given to your body by the bacteria. They're liberated. They're actually offered. You need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. Anyway, okay, so remember, this is the cover, and you can just, go ahead and fully enjoy that. It's like your sauerkraut. And you know what? Just really, truly enjoy your lives with all these wonderful foods that you can prepare yourselves. Pass the information that you know. Don't hold on to any secrets of yourself. Like, it's great that we had this audience today because we can bet that everyone that came today, we passing the information to a friend. And this is how we get this community of growth and healing going. Because what I told you today of my husband being as sick as he was, I'm not kidding, he was pretty well a write-off. Like, he would be crawling sometimes on the floor. He was in so much pain. And he's out of pain today. He was like, he followed that diet exactly to the T for 1 year. But hello, when you're eating food like that, who can't follow it, right? Like, that cake is one of the recipes that you can have. Those books, so the GAPS book, written by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, is a book that's about the disease, the gut and psychology, the gut and physiology. There's a part of it in the center that's a cookbook. The book Breaking the Vicious Cycle by Elaine Gottschall is half the disease written in layman's language, and the other half is a cookbook. It's wonderful. There's websites that people have running, the Food Renegade, all raw foods. The Kombucha Mama, she does all the kombucha. She tells you wonderful things in there about kombucha. How to do your second brew, how to set up in business. Like, I mean, it's wonderful information. Just do it. Just get out there, educate yourself, pass on the good news. Tell your friends, because you want everyone to be healthy. We should be living long lives. We're the sickest people today. And you know what? The generation now are not expected to outlive their parents. That's sad. Which means these children will be dying before their parents. I mean, that's unheard of. But today we're having that. The biggest industry today are fertility clinics because these women are eating no fat and low fat. And that reproductive system needs fat. Your hormones are run on fat. You need it. You cannot operate without it. And as I was talking about the statin drugs already, that's just what it is.
Last question.
Yes.
Acid reflux.
Acid reflux.
If one has that, can they, along with their medication, eat the sauerkraut and the whatever?
Absolutely, and you will be reducing your, you see this, oh, okay. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to tell you one important thing. When someone has acid reflux and they're on drugs, they are not producing B12. B12 will eventually lead you to dementia because it takes 7 pathways for B12 to get into your liver to be then brought up into your system for use. B12 is the most important vitamin. I mean, all of them are important, but B12, you can die from B12 deficiency. And you are not getting your B12 when you have acid reflux with drugs. So you need to cure it. You need to start taking the sauerkraut, getting your own juices going. You need to take hydrochloric acid by the capsules with your meals so you can start producing your own hydrochloric acid so you can reduce those drugs until your body goes, oh, I'm producing my own now. I don't need those anymore. Because your body knows. Innately, your body, your cells, they know what you need and they'll call for it. And when you don't need those drugs anymore, your body will react. And plus, there's a lot of saliva tests you can do anyway with hydrochloric acid. Okay? And you know, when you drink some of these stuff, it'll give you like a bit of a warming sensation in your stomach. You know you've got to have hydrochloric acid. Drink a little, whoever this is, get the apple cider, the organic apple cider vinegar, 1 shot in the morning. Oh my goodness, it does wonders. Again, that's a fermented vinegar. Apple cider is a vinegar. And start off with that. Warm it up, a little bit of warm water. Yeah, yeah. The only bean you can actually have is white navy bean, but only after a while. And if you do navy bean flour, that bean has to be fermented first, then dried, then put into a flour. And then you can bake with it.
So don't eat like rice?
No beans at all. No, absolutely no. Those are so rich. No. The beans... You know what? The beans are so rich in proteins that you can't cleave those. If you're telling me you're getting issues from here, you don't have the ecology to cleave those proteins. And when you can't cleave those proteins, you get gas and you get pain. No. That's just enormous gas. You just got to quit that stuff. No.
However, if you soak the beans, bring them to a boil, drain them, broil, drain, boil.
If you soak those beans till they're completely almost sprouted, you'll be okay. But in the beginning on the protocol, we do not advocate any fermentable carbohydrates at all. We want the healing and the sealing to take place. Because only when those holes, so here it is, your small intestine are held in with really tight glue-like substances. You have so many microbes down there, what happens is that glue comes unstuck. The food gets out. in here. The body goes, what the heck is that? It launches an attack because it's supposed to. It's doing its job. In that attack, it gives you an allergy. You've got a skin rash. You've got pimples. You've got psoriasis. You've got elbows. You've got patches. That's your body talking to you. So you've got to heal and seal that intestinal lining. You've got to seal that because you're not going to get better. And that chronic state of inflammation will give you eventually cancer because your white blood cells they're out there scavenging. Those macrophages out there scavenging for garbage. They can only scavenge so long. They become so weak themselves because they're not getting any energy from any of the food. These foods. These foods. And I'm not saying my foods. I'm saying these kinds of foods. You know, the stuff you're drinking here, the kombucha.
This is in my diet every day. Sauerkraut, every day.
And it's not fermented, right? Or sorry, it's not pasteurized. That's one thing that has to be like, if you're getting honey, make sure it says unpasteurized, okay? Anything you're having, it has to be unpasteurized. Because once you kill it with pasteurization, you killed the bacteria. You might as well like throw it away, honest. You might as well throw it away. It's useless, yeah, exactly. Exactly, yeah.
So in that situation, it's the GAPS diet that you recommend?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely the GAPS diet, for sure. When you go on to gaps.me, Google into Dr. Natasha. Let her talk to you from her home in the UK. She's from the UK. She's this wonderful neurosurgeon that, you know, she just perfected, she fine-tuned the SCD diet. And the SCD diet is where she cured her son from. It speaks volumes for itself. When you take yourself away from those 5 things and start by healing and sealing that gut lining, you're going to mend. Go to Brooker's. Go get your meats from there. And you know what? They know what to put in the soup. They'll say, oh, Colin's going to tell you, get those knuckle bones, get those oxtails, get those marrow bones, get those chicken's feet, and get that chicken carcass. There's your broth. You put your meat into cold water, into a big pot, a big stewing pot. Bring it to a boil with nothing in it. Skim that scum off with your colander till it's totally gone. Reduced, you're just skimming all that scum off. Reduce that heat into a soft rolling boil. Into that water, in that amount of water, like a big 20-liter pot, I put 1 huge cooking onion. Just cut into it so the flavor and the stuff comes out. I put into it 6 stalks of celery, about a tablespoon, again, of the Celtic salt. And you just use that Celtic salt. Here it is. I just use the salt all the time. Make sure your soup is salty enough. We need the minerals to carry our vitamins. This is like our battery charger. Okay, this is like, you know, when you look at the hydro, what makes the hydro flow through there? The conductor. This is like the conductor. You need the minerals. You need salt in your body. Doctors say to you, cut your sodium. You know what? That's a crock. Read it on Weston A. Price. So when you have your salt in there and your celery in there and your onion, I put just 1 whole bunch of Italian parsley. I just put either dental floss around it or a nice clear elastic band. Throw it in there. Let that cook for at least 24 hours. At that mark, you can add some carrots and stuff like that you're going to keep. Those other things are pretty well, they're like so cooked to death. Don't even bother with the vegetables. But those bones, you know what will happen in 36 hours? Those bones still won't be done. You can put them for your next soup. You'll see that big collagenous tissue around those knuckle bones? That's your healing power. That's the gelatin that's going to heal your gut. That's what's going to get you feeling better. You need to get on diet. Like, you know, those are old traditional diets. You know, what did our grannies, what did they say about chicken soup? Good for the soul, it's good for the body.
Do you mix them all, the different bones?
Yeah, I do. The chicken's feet, I'll tell you right now, chicken's feet have the biggest, there's a clinic in the West End that's using it strictly for cancer. Because the stuff that cooks out of those chicken's feet, the collagenous tissues, and whatever else there is in there, all the elastin and all the wonderful things, they are the ticket to your health. Like I said to you, it is so, when I put, like, so then what I do, so here's what I do. Then I get a big colander and I pour off all the broth into another big pot. I pour off all the broth. While the broth is hot, I get my jars like this, I put them under hot water, the exterior of them under hot water, put them down, have a soup colander. I have a soup colander and I get a 2-cup, 4-cup thing. I get that and I pour it into my jars. About here, I put on the jars, and when they cool in the air, they lock down. And you can put those in your refrigerator, and they are good until you finish them. If they're open mouth, they're only good for 9 days. So seal them up in your jar. Don't waste them. You know, I use these jars for everything.
Broth, right?
Yeah, that's my broth, yeah. So use your soup, get a nice soup colander. I thought I had one here, but I don't. Get a soup colander, use a big measuring cup, pour it in there. Like I said, put the lid on, let it cool outside. I usually put mine out in the wintertime, you know, just let it cool or in the garage. And when it's done, I put it in the refrigerator because I don't want them to freeze either because you know what? I have had it where it froze and the bottle just split here. Like I was sick. 36 hours of brewing a broth, and it's like, it's not even my work, it's that wonderful thing that's gone to waste, right? Yeah.
That not being strong in calcium as well?
Thank you for saying that because it just reminded me. You have to put in there 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar to pull the calcium from the bones. And when you get that marrow, bang it on the table, get that marrow, salt it down, and eat it. It's so good. Oh my gosh, thank you. It is so good. It is absolutely so good.
And a vegetarian would do what?
You know what? That's a cleansing diet. You can cleanse for the rest of your life, but you're not getting those essentials I was talking about earlier. Your cells are made out of 50% saturated fats. When Weston A. Price went around the world, he was hoping to find a culture of people that just lived on the land, just lived off the land on vegetables. He could not find that because they all of them embraced the fats and they embraced the organ meats. So that's what they did. Yeah. Yeah. They have the milk. They have the milk, so that contains your, and you know what? Only unpasteurized milk has B12. You see? So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You're very welcome. I hope you've enjoyed the lecture. Hope you enjoyed the food. Yeah, excellent, excellent.
Wonderful.
Oh, good, good. Great, good.
At Richters, it's not just a garden, it's a whole new world. For herb plants, seeds, veggies, and more, visit us at richters.com or call 1-800-668-4372.